Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we're currently joined by 10th Man, who's going to hopefully go through a few bits and bobs that are part of an ongoing discussion about the pressure in our air. However, I'm going to do a very quick shout out to all of the people who currently support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out to Alistair, Billy Highvolt, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Godrockin, Jeronism, Kirsten Smith, Life is Short, new Patreon. Thank you very much for joining us on Patreon. Life is Short, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Matt, Michael, Paige, Love, Tar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sam, Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, and Tina Baker, last but not by no means least. Thank you very much indeed to all of you who have supported me on Patreon. So with that, I'm going to raise the mic on 10th Man. How are you doing, 10th Man?
I'm doing well. Welcome back. I got a little feedback.
Should be okay.
Hello? Check.
Hopefully it's okay.
All right. Yeah, I just heard a little feedback, whereas before I didn't. So make sure it's good.
There's going to be a few teething issues. Now they've dropped the live part of Google. Not that it makes much difference. I never actually use that functionality anymore, but nevertheless, there's slight differences with the non-live bit. But there we go. Hopefully that'll iron itself out with experience. But in the meantime, I know you've got some critiques, shall we call them, of Ranty's criticisms of some information that was put forward by Paul in regards to Dwayne Kellum and his balloon launches. So take it away.
Yes. Right off the bat, I'm with you, and life is short. It really doesn't matter the temperatures in the stratosphere because they can fluctuate, and they do fluctuate. Sometimes they're minus 60, sometimes they're minus 28. So Paul got some data from Dwayne Kellum showing that at about 118, 119,000 feet, it was an actual plus number of, I believe, 13.9. As I recall. So he showed that, and then next thing I know, the next day, Ranty comes on the show, which would be last Thursday, and starts saying he's here to defend the guy who was saying possibly there was a instrument malfunction that caused that plus temperature, which could be. But did he take time to contact Dwayne Kellum to find out? No. He just said that the group or the panel jumped all over this guy, and he was here to defend that. Well, the call went south. I got triggered because he wouldn't answer a simple question. He got triggered because he said my question was leading, but I thought all questions were leading. I mean, your questions are questions. Just answer them. You know, that's where I live. And then Arwen got triggered. So the show kind of got excited there for a little bit, but I felt a little, something wrong about the whole thing. So I started doing some research and listened to the show again and decided to contact Dwayne Kellum myself. I said, look, Dwayne, the show came on with Nathan Oakley. Your data you sent Paul was in question. Was there malfunction in the instruments in recording the temperature? And Dwayne Kellum responded, no, there was no malfunction on that test. Now, that was the test that had the positive temperature of 13.9 at about 119,000 feet in the stratosphere. But on the show, Ranty had a screen share of balloon footage, which was from Dwayne Kellum, I assume. And he was comparing that to Paul's data of the positive 13.9. And in that, at the same height, he kept referring to, it says minus 36. Minus 36 is not positive 13.9. I think we all could agree with that. Problem was, after the show, I just was like wondering why it went south and decided to do more research. And I looked at the screenshot in the top bar left of Ranty's screenshot. It shows the date of 6/15/2017. Then I went to Paul's data and saw the date was 7/24. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Ranty's screenshot said 7/24/2019, and Paul's data said 6/15/2017, which is 25 months earlier. So Ranty shared a screen share with different temperatures of a totally different balloon flight. What I said, well, wait a minute, that actually opens up more questions. So I decided to contact Dwayne Kellum myself directly. So I did. He was very quick in his responses, and I asked him. The first one was, did your instruments malfunction on the 13.9 temperature reading on the 6/15/2017 flight that Paul shared the data for? He said, no, absolutely not. He checked it. And then I asked him, has there been other balloon tests he's done where he's had positive temperatures, or was that the only one? And he said, no, he's had other tests at other times where in the stratosphere he's had positive temperatures. Whereas Ranty said you can never have positive temperatures in the stratosphere. And all research and consensus shows this, as he kept saying, and went to Google search, and that's when he and Arvin were going at it. So I said, what causes it, do you think? And actually, he responded in an email showing that it had to be done during the day when the sun was directly overhead and the atmospheric conditions would have to be right. And that's how you get positive temperatures in the stratosphere. So it was not a malfunction of the instrument. Paul's data was right of 6/15/2017. Ranty sharing a screen share of 7/24/2019 and saying on the show, this is the same footage, meaning to Paul's data was false. So that's got to be straightened out. On that date, there was no positive temperature. It was -36. So whether it is or not, it doesn't matter for what we're arguing, because as Life is Short kept coming in, it doesn't matter, and I agree with that. I was accused of trying to defend a group of people, which I wasn't. And my basic question at the beginning turns out to be valid. I said, does the temperature in England vary from hot to cold? And he said, yeah. Well, and then he just wouldn't let me finish. And he says, that's a leading question. And then it got me triggered by the way he was talking to me. Well, it seems like in the stratosphere, it does get hot and cold depending on when you do a test. And there are pockets. Strata means layers. So there are layers of hot temperatures every now and then. So there's more, but I just want to correct it so that if next time someone wants to come on and challenge a challenge, please contact the person who does the test, ask him to validate if the thing was malfunctioning or not before you come on and take on the panel and say all these things, because you're using a screen share that's 25 months older, is not even the same flight. So there's more, but I'll leave it at that because I just wanted to correct the record.
Cool. Excellent. Very concise. Well done.
But thank you. Again, I said in the pre-show of that same show with you, as we were talking about the flat earth community and the people and what we're doing, I said, your show was a vital channel for this cause. And I said, Ranty does good work, wonderful work, actually. And he has an inquisitive mind. So I paid respect to Ranty before that show, in the pre-show. So if anyone wants to know how I feel about Ranty, I love the guy. I love his work. I just think this episode just went sour, and I'd like to get a handle on it and get things back to normal.
I don't think it's sour. I think it's just lots of inquiring minds coming at things from different angles. I mean, yeah, it can get a little bit heated, but that's just passion, and I like that. I don't think there's anything bad in that whatsoever.
Well, I didn't mean sour in that sense, because I do like passion too, and I've even said what you just said before, because I like it when the panel gets after each other. I mean the lack of respect and the ad hom, where he wouldn't let me finish talking. They told Arvin nobody cares about him when we do. I mean, these attack the argument, not the person, please.
Hey, Righteous.
Hey, I might have something to add to this. Like, there was a GoPro rocket that shoots up like really high, like 74 miles or something. And it shows it's always going colder. It never gets hotter. It goes like negative 270 according to this rocket. Like I can show a screenshot maybe.
Yeah, all that is consistent with everything else, more likely because on some days it is just all cold. And other days, like Dwayne Callum said, when he does the test, daytime, sun's overhead, the atmospheric conditions are right, it does show a positive layer, strata, pocket. And then Paul
Yeah,
put on
but
Master V.
this is way harder than a high altitude balloon. This is like instead of like this is like what is it? 400 400,000 feet.
Yeah, this is even a higher level. We'd have to get the chart and see where the next layer starts after the stratosphere. I see your point. But one thing to add, Paul did go on the Google search and find the U.S. government test with a balloon, high altitude balloon, and it did show a positive 19 at 150,000 feet, which is about 15,000 feet below the stratosphere ending. So there has been other, not just Dwayne Callum.
Okay.
Is there a claim of 400,000 feet? Righteous? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Paul talked about this too. We were talking about it at the 247 Discord. And I forget what his reply was to it because I was like focusing on something else while he was talking. So I want to hear what he says when he comes back here.
Well, the
seem to have gotten me
stratosphere ends
started
at
on
50
this.
kilometers. Stratosphere ends at 50 kilometers, which is about 165,000 feet. Then there's the mesosphere, I believe.
Yeah, because the thermosphere starts at around 295,000 feet, which is originally what caught my attention when I started hearing people claim the thermosphere. And I'm so glad that Nathan quickly realized what Right the Hand was trying to say.
Okay, hang on just a minute. So, are you guys admitting that we know where the atmosphere ends and the vacuum of space, which is not a vacuum cleaner, starts?
No, we're not even.
We know
I'm
there's
not.
outrageous
I'm not
claims.
admitting anything like that.
So, you're admitting that
No.
the
No. Let me bring
air
it back
pressure.
to the table. No, what we're talking about is data in the stratosphere by a hot air with a helium balloon. Now, righteous force, brought up that there's this rocket that goes up and it goes higher, and its instruments recorded different temperatures. That's not the topic of hand. That could be a topic of hand at another time, I guess, or right after this talk, I guess. But I don't know what's up there, how high it goes. All I know is you can't have gas pressure without a container. And we were talking about, is there temperature differences in the stratosphere? Well, Dwayne Callum's balloon test showed that there can be. That was challenged by Ranty, going by Google search and modern consensus, saying that the whole level from beginning to end of stratosphere is always cold, never hot, never a positive number, but always a negative number, fluctuating, but negative. And Paul showed a government balloon test that showed a 19 plus number at 150,000 feet, which is still below the ending point of the stratosphere. And of course, Dwayne Callum says he has more than one balloon test that shows a positive number in the stratosphere. After that, I don't know.
So,
Are those just when the sun is overhead?
That's what he said. He said that the only time, and it's not always, it's just that it only happens when the sun is overhead and the rest of the atmosphere is cooperating. So then I went and looked at some of the other data and saw that on the days that the tests were done, that there was no positive temperature, the negative temperature fluctuated 30, 40 degrees. So there is fluctuations up there. So if it can fluctuate from negative 60 to negative, say, 30 on any given day, what's to say when the sun's directly overhead and everything else being right, it can't fluctuate from negative 30 to positive 13.9, which is what his instrument recorded. And that was my whole point. There's pockets of this possibly.
Sorry, go ahead, Travis.
No, that was 10th man. I'm done.
No, go ahead. Well, I'll just say that the thermosphere was claimed to be hotter, starts at 295,000 feet approximately.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know,
And the rocket ship,
Quantum
and the
Racer
rocket ship said what?
is
And what did the
Oh, I
rocket
was just
ship data say?
I was going to say, Quantum Racer is awesome. And the only thing that I've now disagreed with that guy on is exactly what Nathan was holding him to task to in a joking manner, but seriously.
What
regarding
subject
the
are you on?
thermosphere.
I'm lost.
The thermosphere.
Okay.
The claim that the thermosphere is hotter, but it's higher than we can even reach.
Travis, can I just ask you a real quick question?
Sure.
You're talking about the thermosphere, which is 150,000 feet plus.
No, it's 295,000 feet and above.
Okay, that is even awesomer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, Travis. So if there's no molecules of air up there punching down on your skin, how are you going to tell?
Yeah, my point is that we can't tell the temperature because I don't believe we can get that high. We don't know how many molecules are up there because we can't get that high.
No, we definitely can. And that's the argument that you've obviously gone with to make you think the way you do, which is complete horseshit, to be perfectly Frank Sinatra about it. And you've never been there to prove me wrong, have you?
And vice versa, right?
What?
You've never been there.
Wouldn't I say that to you? You haven't been there to prove me wrong?
Well, it can go either way. I don't need to go there because
Oh, great.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just like I could say to you, Travis, have you got a brain? Can I see it? It's exactly
How
the
does
same.
that have anything to do
Yeah, I don't
with the
see how you're.
thermosphere? The height of the thermosphere.
That's pick another form of arguing this point.
No.
Tell you what, Jazz, can you give me an example of a time or a situation where we have reached the thermosphere? 295,000 feet.
No, I don't need to do that because your example is if I haven't seen it, it doesn't exist.
No, my example or my position would be that it's not possible to attain such an altitude. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do understand, and that's exactly what my question says. Because you can't obtain that altitude yourself, that means you don't know that your brain exists.
Do you have an example of when we have attained such an altitude?
That's a false equivalence. That's a false equivalence.
Many times,
to say
but
his
you
brain
guys
doesn't exist.
Hang on.
Well, that's a false equivalence. His brain exists to even ask the question. How could you say his brain doesn't? It's the same as his brain doesn't exist. He's asking the question because his brain does exist. All he's doing is asking the question. He's showing a recorded rocket saying what the temperature is at said levels. Now, Whether it
listen
is or isn't,
to what
I don't know
you just said.
Let me finish.
Listen.
Let me finish.
Oh,
You'll have
I'll let
plenty-
you finish. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So, whether it exists or not is not the point. The point is he's questioning it, which means his brain does exist, and he's got the right to question it. Now, through asking and going back and forth, maybe we get a little closer to the truth. So his proof is this rocket ship that went up and was recording data as it was going up 74 miles. Am I right about that, Righteous?
No,
74
I-
miles. No.
that was right to hand.
Uh,
or no, not
Oh,
right
that
to
was
hand.
right
It was.
to hand.
It was.
That was
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
That
I
was
thought you
that
were
was
using
Righteous
that
Force
same
that said that.
example.
My claim is that we cannot get that high. I don't claim that we have a 74-mile rocket ship. No, I have yet to see.
Okay, well, that's a good claim.
validation.
That's a good claim. I mean, it's possible that they're faking that too.
Yeah, well, 295,000 feet, which is the start of the thermosphere, is 50% higher than the highest flight we've had, the highest altitude that I know of. And that was like around 180,000 feet, approximately 170,000 feet, maybe.
Yeah, it gives credence to why these spaceships curve as they get higher rather than go straight up.
No, no.
Yeah.
Whoever's using Nathan Oakley's name,
It's getting patched
why
through from the Google
why
Hangout.
why would you not do your own research on how orbital mechanics work? How and why would you not do that?
Oh my
Because you're
gosh.
begging
Can
the
you
question
please
that we're
provide an
orbiting.
example where we have reached the thermosphere to measure the temperature of it, would
Could you
you?
just repeat that 10th, man?
Because you're begging the question, assuming we're orbiting.
You're begging the question, assuming that we're not.
No, I'm
not how
not.
it works.
I'm saying this. Coriolis causes
Go ahead.
are two reference frames. Show me that, and I'll give you the Earth orbiting. Show me two reference frames for Earth-based Coriolis, and I'll give you your orbiting. Fair enough?
You understand what he's
No.
asking you, Jazz? He's saying if you can give him a demonstration of Earth-based Coriolis effect, then he'll give you your orbiting.
Opposing weather systems in either hemisphere proves that.
Hemispheres
But,
begging the question.
no, that's fake. That's fake. That's
No,
gotta be fake.
you haven't listened to the reply. You've stated your rhetoric and then started mumbo jumbo. So hemisphere. So automatically assuming a sphere, then that would also be begging the question.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. No, not on the shape of the Earth, on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we're joined by Righteous Truth, Sleeping Warrior and 10th Man in Google. How you doing?
Hey.
Very good.
Hey.
Hey, can you back off your mic a little bit, please, Anthony, if you don't mind? And we're also joined in Discord by Earth-Shaped Investigator, Chocolate Sane, FE Batman, FE Force, Jazz, Akonda, Mad, Red, and Travis. Very good to have all of you also.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good morning.
Excellent.
Can I kick it
For
off?
some
ever
reason,
so quickly
I couldn't
with
I
the-
couldn't join in the Google Hangouts today for some reason. It's not letting me. I don't
Okay,
know why.
that could be a problem. We'll have to work that out in the after show. Perhaps Chocolate. We'll see what's going on there.
Yeah, no problem.
Any signs of Earth curvature?
If I can just say,
No.
Nathan, you've got a real talent for radio and hosting stuff.
Oh, that's so sweet. Do you have any Earth curve evidence?
Not offhand, but as we get through the rest
But
of the
you'll
house
believe it
talking,
anyway.
I'll get to.
Here we go.
You haven't got any offhand, but you'll believe it anyway, right?
I thought it was easy, 8
Riley.
inches per mile square.
What's up, man?
Should we just call it a squared plus b squared equals c squared just to take the piss? So let's just
Can I
conclude
kick
we
it off
haven't
with
got
a
any
question
evidence
here?
for curvature. What's the next question?
You feel free.
Any
to
signs
Question
of
is there any
axial
evidence of a
rotation?
thermosphere?
We'll come to that at the end, I promise. We'll get back onto the thermosphere. I know people are keen on that particular subject, but in the meantime, housekeeping specific.
I'd love.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth base variety?
This came up in
Definitely
the
not.
pre-show too. So this was put to as a challenge to Jazz, who asserted that we are being foolish for not automatically begging the questions of orbits. And the challenge laid down by 10th Man was to provide any evidence of Earth-based Coriolis. And if he can do so, he'll accept the presupposition of orbits. But yeah, axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. Any evidence, feel free. Doesn't have to be Coriolis-based.
Nope.
Nope.
We'll keep that one in the bag, 10th Man.
Okay. I got a story to go with that.
Any more housekeeping questions? Somebody other than me?
Any scientific evidence for gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
There has been a development on the gravity front.
Oh, excellent. Stick
Nathan,
on
would you
screen.
mind presenting
Yeah.
my screen, please?
You are on.
Okay. So if you go to Google and type in these 4 simple words, you'll get the page that I'm reading from. Express, Newton was wrong. The Express, Daily Express, which is a
Seems to
national
be-
newspaper in the UK.
Sorry, it
That's
seems to be
recently
weird.
printed.
It's weird. You're like massive. And can you make it smaller? There we go. That's just about legible. Perfect.
Okay, so the Express is a daily national newspaper in the UK. A few days ago, they printed this document. Newton was wrong. Scientists dismiss Newton's dismiss. Right, that's like supersede. It's not like refine or support. It's replace. And it says scientists dismiss Newton's theory of gravity and warn that Einstein is next. So Newton is basically being dismissed by the Express. If you want to check the context of this, be my guest. Just type in the words Express, Newton was wrong, and you'll find it. Secondly, in support of this document, we have this guy called Anton, no relation, whose video is entitled New Black Hole Study Confirms Einstein's Theories Proving Newton Wrong. Now, this proving Newton wrong bit is the bit that I want to focus on, because if Einstein proves Newton wrong, he does not supersede, he does not support, he does not refine. He proves it wrong. We'll use the word debunk. Now, his rationale for this is
Sleeping
based on
warrior.
orbital mechanics and begging the question with big black hole things and all these other useful things, phenomena that we see in the night sky from the lights that we can't prove are planets. But the point is that he's also claiming that Newton's been proved wrong. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Fight the Flat Earth tried to get George Musa to contradict himself and basically say that gravity was a force. It's literally everywhere. Newton's gravitation was a force, but it's been replaced by Einstein. Now, let's not forget about the evidence requirement to
Yeah.
prove gravity. Ballers can't even give us a reliable, consistent definition for gravity, because when you go to Jose's chat, they all still want it to be a force, and they reject Einstein, which is their current science. And I'm reminding people that your current science is this. So not only can we not have any evidence of gravity, we can't even get a consistent baller definition for gravity because they keep reverting back to Newton. But it's everywhere on the internet. Do a search, you'll find it. Newton was wrong. Einstein's the current science.
It's
I'm
a
done.
gravity feedback loop, like a black
Sleeping
hole.
Warrior,
Hey, Owen.
Sleeping Warrior, we haven't had a consistent feedback of gravity from Einstein, but we can always do one thing, and what happens? And you can do it right
from
now.
your perspective, Jazz, I can understand why you wouldn't think that there's been a consistent feedback loop from Einstein, because you've only just learnt about Einstein, even though he's been the current science since 1915. So for you to assert that you've not had a consistent one is perhaps based on your own ignorance rather
hang
than
on. Hang on.
Did
Did you just tell me that I just learnt about Einstein?
Yeah, because you keep thinking gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
You just said that.
Hold on a second. Can you
I
both back
just
off your
learned
mics just
about
a little bit? I
Einstein.
know it's getting heated already, but both back off your mics, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Jazz, you still think gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
I just heard about Einstein. You just told me that.
Yeah, you still think gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
Are you? Hang on. Are you telling 8.7 billion people that they're fucking stupid?
No swearing.
Yeah.
There's only
Oh
100
yeah.
And that they
Just for the record, there's 128 people watching, not 8.2 billion. Just FYI.
makes you crazy. That's what makes you. Sorry,
Did you say
Terry.
that they also said did they also claim that that Einstein would be next?
Yeah, he did. They have claimed that because Einstein's theory doesn't. It's not totally accurate.
Einstein
But
would be.
I love it.
When they make up
I
the
love
new
it with the
math,
video
and they
you
call
just
it like
showed.
Let
Because
Jazz in. Let Jazz in.
disproves
Hold on.
Newton, but
Sorry,
then
Armin. Sorry
the
to land on.
disproof for Newton is disproved. So what has come out of that?
Right, Jazz, hopefully unimpeded. Go ahead. Excellent response. Good job.
Jazz, let me say it again so you
talking
can
to me?
respond. Jazz thinks that gravity's still a force, like all the morons in Jose's chat. They all think it's a force because someone like George Moose has told them that it's not a force, but they can think of it as a force. Well, if they think of it as a force, that still doesn't make it a force. And everywhere on the internet, you can find citations that Newton's been replaced by, debunked by, superseded by Einstein, yet you morons still want to call it a force. So which is it? Did you just learn about Einstein very recently, or did you know about it all along and you've been misleading people, Jazz?
Okay, Nathan, can you give me? Can I speak freely with old whoever?
Can you speak freely?
I don't know, can he? Are you intoxicated again tonight, Jazz, or are you just tired?
No, because if you want to go, if you guys want to go balls to the wall for your mate, then you can go for it. But I'd just like to know who I was just talking to because I'm new to the
Jazz, you literally
Discord
addressed him. It's Sleeping Warrior. You
We
addressed
told
him
you to
already.
read the contract
Okay.
before joining.
Okay. Sleeping Warrior, you there?
Jazz.
Of course, I'm waiting with bated breath for you to tell us whether or not you've only just
Can you
learned
back
about
off your
Einstein,
mic,
or did you know
Anthony?
all along and misled people?
Back off your mic a little bit, please, Anthony. I beg you.
Sleeping Warrior.
Yes, Jazz.
Sleeping Warrior, can you just address, and I really want you to address what your thought on gravity is for the whole crew, for all your team.
That your ball Earth side of the argument cannot consistently define what gravity is, let alone prove it.
Okay, Sleeping Warrior. When I'm in my airplane, Sleeping Warrior, so you've got all your building materials that explain
those two
your
things.
side.
I've got to stop already. I'm already confused in the first sentence. So you're on your aeroplane, and Anthony's got all his building materials. These two things kind of don't link together in any way, shape, or form. But if you want
Exactly, Nathan. I'm talking about
Yes,
G-force.
exactly. That's just fantastic.
What does that have to do with building materials?
right, so I'm on a cement wagon, and we've got these penguins, right?
No, Nathan.
There you go. That's
you're
the proof of
leaning up
gravity.
against. You're leaning up against a pallet of 9 tons of cement.
Okay,
And
I'm
say,
with you. I'm
Nathan,
on
let's
track
go
now.
for a fly.
I had
How the
flies.
hell is this relevant?
Jazz, what are you trying to say, Jazz? Seriously, nobody's following you right now.
Because you don't understand. I'm trying to explain to you that density and buoyancy has nothing at all to do with gravity.
So what's gravity?
Well, Nathan, you're in my airplane.
Well,
right now,
he's
you're in the
correct,
back
though.
seat.
Talk to Anthony, man.
Gravity
Talk to
simply
Anthony.
doesn't come in the
Did it?
picture.
Wait, Jazz. Didn't you ask
he's seen
to
the mic light up.
specifically address Sleeping Warrior?
No, because I don't know how you,
But you
I
did.
don't know how the fuck you don't get it. It's quite simple.
I know you're not
Jazz.
triggered. I know you're
I
not.
don't
Just
think
hold on
you
one
know
second.
what
Hold on,
we are
Owen. Hold
supposed to
on.
not
I know
be
you're not
getting.
triggered, but please try not to swear anyway.
I think
Nathan,
Jazz
do we need to
forgot
have
that-
Nathan?
Nathan,
Do we need to have an inebriated Australian
on.
for the purposes of a gravity discussion?
hang on, Nathan.
What?
You're in the back. You're in the back seat of my Eurofighter.
Okay. I'm with you.
Oh my god.
Go for Antarctica.
You can look it. You can look it up on Google.
What? Being in the backside
I'm
of a what? A fighter jet?
Yeah,
I'm
Eurofighter.
taking off now. Arwen,
Now we
Hey,
know
look,
what you did on
I'm with you, man. I've
vacation.
got my eyes closed. I'm in the zone. Stop ruining it. Right. We're taking off.
we're going vertical. We're doing a 9G pull.
I'd be dead. I definitely couldn't
We're
survive
going
that.
vertical.
Okay. I'm with you.
No, you're not gonna go vertical 9G.
You're-
That's ridiculous.
Just let him make his example.
Arwen,
Just let him make his
you
example.
don't know, so shut the fuck up.
Ah, God. Look, he was on track, Arwin. Come on, you're ruining it for him.
He's on what track?
I've no idea. We haven't got to the end of the track. Look, we should all have our eyes closed. We should all be in a fighter jet pulling 9G.
Going
Nathan,
9G
Nathan.
vertical seems like a bad idea.
That's okay. It's only hypothetical. We're not actually doing it, Arwin. We're in no danger here. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not actually doing it, but you can think that we're doing it.
Exactly. I am. I've got my eyes closed and everything.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
Come on,
think of
Jazz.
this as
Spit
we
it
are.
out for God's sake.
Nathan, we can't deal with these.
Have you forgotten your point?
Well, maybe if you'd include everybody in on that flight, they wouldn't feel the
Look,
need
there's
to
only
butt
two.
in.
There's only 2 seats in this fighter jet. Don't get jealous,
all come?
right? You can pretend you're
yeah.
fantasizing alongside me, but there's really only 2 seats in this fighter.
Right, it's clear that Jazz has lost his trail of thought. Let's get back on track, Jazz. Can you give a concise definition for what gravity is? Yes or no?
And okay, well, Nathan, right now we're
His
we're
name's
at-
Anthony.
We're at
I wasn't
we're at
talking to you then.
1G. We're at 1G and we're passing through 65,000 feet.
Hold on, 1G. So, am I experiencing 1G stationary right now?
You feel like you're just sitting in your seat, and we're passing through 65,000 feet, 69,000 feet now.
No, I don't mean in fantasy. I mean in reality. Before I do anything, how much G am I experiencing?
You'll be experiencing one,
One.
even though we're accelerating. We've got to our max acceleration of Mach 2, climbing to 60,000 feet. So you've got to your max acceleration, so you won't feel any more acceleration.
So no more G. So at that point, 1G. Don't you mean 0G?
When we pull over the top, you'll feel 1G, and then we'll roll level, and then you'll feel negative G.
Yeah.
This proves gravity?
Just for the starting point, when we're not doing anything, is it, according to you, 1G?
I'm wondering what his point is.
What he's doing is he's
I think he's wondering that too.
He's moving the
Really
scale
got the
up by
example out.
1.
Can't answer that
So
question.
instead of 0G, i.e. the no effects of pulling any loop-de-loops, he's calling 1G. Because they also, the fundies, the zealots that believe they live on a sphere and believe in things like space, outer space, a vacuum, all that crap, they believe that 0G is when you're in equilibrium with your falling speed. In other words, the plane around you's falling and you're falling at the same rate. They call that an equivalent of 0G, which they pretend happens in their fundy region of space. But here in this example, when nothing's happening, apparently that's one of an immense force that you would also feel when pulling a loop-de-loop. Even though it's not, it's
Nathan,
0.
Nathan, may I read something?
Sure.
Okay. All 3 G's, he's talking about G-force here. He says a pilot could only experience 9G if he's got a G suit on, which will keep the blood flowing through their bodies.
Go ahead with 3Gs. Go ahead.
Okay, as I was saying, a pilot could only go 9G because he's got a G suit on, which keeps the blood flowing through their bodies. Person
down to 8G.
Hold on, you will get a chance to respond. I promise, Jazz.
Nothing pulls more than 5 Gs except for fighter jets. So, but they have to have special suits. Then it's talking about most roller coasters pull about 4 Gs. Some coasters pull 5 or 6. But once a person is at 5, he or she is likely to black out.
Who cares? What is this point proving?
No, that's completely
Jazz.
wrong.
Jazz, what's your point?
It proves that he can
Not you, Arwen.
avoid responding
Not
to
you,
the
Arwen.
yes or no question
Arwen, just
for
Jazz.
half an hour.
Go on, Jazz. What's your point?
The time, it's called G-lock, which means that the amount of time that the blood flows from your head down to your feet in positive G, and is completely wrong because it depends completely on if it's a quick roll, 90 degree sustained turn, particularly laterally to the surface of the earth. 9 Gs, which a fighter pilot will pull in a turn or more.
Who cares? What's the point, Gs? Jazz?
There's no point.
Can I ask him a question? If you can hear me.
If you dare, go ahead.
Well, do you know the cause of that 9G?
No, wait, Paul,
do you know
wait.
the cause of that?
Wait, Paul, wait. Go ahead, Jazz.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, the point is exactly the same thing, and I could be wrong. A guy got killed in the Death Valley in California a few days ago in the low-level exercise, and he over-exaggerated the turn, pulled too many Gs, and blacked out. And I'll put $1 million on that was the cause of the accident.
What's this got to do with gravity?
Come on, Jazz, please get a sentence out coherently. What is your point proving?
Because if gravity didn't exist, he would still be alive.
So you think the cause of this was gravity?
What?
What the hell? If gravity didn't exist, he'd still be
on his
alive.
death certificate, cause of death, gravity.
So if gravity, then death of this guy, right? And without it, he'd be still alive. Okay, if you say so.
Is he the first baller that's been killed by gravity, Jazz? Come on.
That's the reason I was going to ask him.
That's going to give a major problem for the investigation board because they know full well they can't find gravity anywhere.
Okay, Paul,
Jazz.
go ahead.
Gravity on the loose as a murderer.
Paul's been on tenterhooks for the last minute or so. Go ahead, Paul.
I know the cause of the 9G. I know the cause.
It wasn't anything to do with the pilot pulling the rudder on the plane, was it?
Wait.
Yeah, no shit, Owen, because he smacked right
just let him make his point.
asshole.
Owen didn't even say anything. Chime down. Just go ahead, Paul. What's your point?
I said my point is the cause of the 9G is the plane and its turns and acceleration. What's the cause of this so-called thing that they're describing? I know the cause of one thing, but I don't know the cause of the other. So really, it's about cause and effect, and he's not even addressed that.
I don't think he can even define gravity, Paul. I've asked him twice, and he's still not answered me. Can we have a definition of gravity, Jazz? Come on.
I'm going to get one out of him. The claim is on his phone.
When you're ready, Chief. When you're ready.
Come on, Jazz. What's the definition for gravity? What are you talking about that you're calling gravity? Because I don't know. I don't know what gravity is.
He's Google searching it.
Neither does Musa. Do you recall?
You honestly shouldn't have said that because I don't know where to start now.
Yeah, I know we know that. That's why I asked you.
All right, hold on. Don't know where to start. You're the one making the positive claim, and we haven't even had a claim. If we're really honest here, there's been no claim really made by you.
Am I starting with a 12-year-old boy that's been behind the silage pit on a farm?
Now you're chewing your mic talking about 12-year-old boys. Let's shut that line down quickly. Right, let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Oh, why have you let him off the hook? I think it should be.
Yes.
Why? What do you?
I tell you what. Let's make it easy. It's not fair to ask a drunk, inebriated Australian for a definition of gravity at midnight.
Are you a Kiwi?
Just tell us, Jazz, with a yes/no answer. Is gravity a force?
Are you a Kiwi?
No, he's not gonna.
He's gone. He's gone.
And he wouldn't answer it anyway.
He's right here. He's
okay.
He's still in here.
I think he's a Kiwi.
I will tell you in an accent that will make you question.
How about a yes or a no?
Oh God,
is it a force, Jazz?
Drunk debate. This is dreadful.
Yes, absolutely.
Take
I
your mic out
believe
your mouth.
gravity is fire.
You're eating your mic.
That's a beautiful accent, Jazz. He said yes, absolutely. It's a force. He says yes.
Is that what he said?
So we can move on.
Jazz, gravity is not a force, mate. Even if you can think of it as a force, it can't cause anything.
If I can quote George Muser, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. And then he says, workings of gravity, you shouldn't use force concepts. But the effects of gravity, you can use force concepts, notions. It's not real. They believe in not real forces.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we all absolutely understand that it's not real. It's the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Well, pseudo-Ramonian force space isn't where we live. That's nonsense. Bending of conceptual mediums giving rise to non-forces? Well, they're all nonsense, just for fundies. It's fairy tales and just so stories. But, you can keep them. Fundies.
Can I just respectfully point out that Jazz has failed to even attempt to define gravity, let alone give us an explanation for it?
Well, Nathan got to ride on a jet. That was fun.
I just did. Bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time.
Yeah, but that wasn't Jazz. That was you, Nathan. Are there any ballers out there that can define gravity for us?
I will. While they're figuring that out, I will say this. The more I've interacted with ballers on the Discord channel, they are not truly concerned about causes. They're concerned about predictions, and they're concerned about measurements. They're not concerned about causes. So
that's called the dependent variable in a scientific experiment, right? The prediction and the measurement of. So if you're going to measure, for example, a proton, then that's science according to the rumpus. but he ignores the fact that science has an element to it that's required called experiment. Rumpus only wants the observation bit, and he denies the importance and the application or the necessary application of experiments, to the point where we had a discussion about the meaning of the word and it went on for ages.
Yeah.
And literally, the definition of science by his own citation is the observation and experiment of the physical and natural world. And it was the word and that we were having a problem with, because Rumpus thinks that you can go to the safari park and you can look at, or you can witness zebras and lions and only see zebras. And I'm like, well, if you haven't seen lions, you can't say you saw zebras and lions. He says, yes, you can. I was like, no, you can't. If you only saw zebras, you can only claim that you saw zebras. You cannot claim you saw zebras and lions. But Rumpus thinks that you can. And I'm like, that's not the meaning of the word and, Rumpus. They're mutually inclusive when it's and. They're mutually exclusive when it's or.
Yep. And I kept on repeating constantly that, yes, it's never mentioned separately. He gave his example of how it would be considered separate, but he never gave an actual example of this in writing. It was just his idea, because every time you look this up, it's always and in one sentence, in one concept. It's not separable.
Hey, Arwin, you know the guy you were chatting to yesterday with the really annoying accent, and he was asking you for any examples where science has actually proven something? I was ready for battering him in the car. I was picking up somebody in the car, and I was listening to the show. I couldn't type him in chat, but I heard him asking you for anything that science has proven, because he was reacting to Rumpus saying that science doesn't prove things; it only disproves things. Right. I'm going to give a quick list of 10. So this is this hangout, Arwin, at 30 minutes in is where you can come back to it. 10 quick citations for things that science has actually proven. Number 1, water boils at 212 Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. Arwin got that one for them. They took issue with it. Number 2.
Yeah, they did.
They did. So combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. Combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. That's cause and effect. Number 3, information is only caused by intelligent agency. Number 4, lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in ketoacidosis, DKA. Number 5, lack of vitamin C intake in humans results in scurvy. Number 6, knowledge or the existence of the which path information collapses the wave function. Number 7, the rapid motion of and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. That's where gas pressure comes from. And we breathe gas pressure, so there must be a container, and this is proven by science. Number 8.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that one? Isn't that a natural law? Not
no,
it's
there are natural laws as well that apply to gas pressure, but to assert something like Boyle's law as a causal relationship when you've got a volume and pressure law, well, you've got the cause in the law. So it's not required to go through the scientific method. It's the same with all laws. But anyway, sorry, continue, please, Anthony.
Number 8, magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. Number 9, the Coriolis force is caused by 2 differing frames of reference, one rotating coordinate system and one non-rotating coordinate system. And number 10, glucogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. They're all things that science has proven, just 10 of them, right? I was dying to attack him, but I couldn't get back to the computer quick enough, and when I did, he'd finished. But let me just address that one thing that Nathan just said about laws. This thing called gravity, the force that's not really a force. I'm at the point now where my relative density disequilibrium argument with the egg, I'm going to declare on this hangout right now that there is more evidence that supports that is a law of nature than it is anything that we can science out of, because it happens every time. You get an egg, add a bit of salt, it will happen every single time. I'm going to call that a law of nature, and unless anyone can demonstrate that it's not, I'm going to do something to make it be a thing. Because relative density does seem to be, or disequilibrium does seem to be, a law of nature, because we can't really explain it. It's hard to explain, like the reason why hot goes to cold and pressure goes to non-pressure. Guess what? Density and non-density, or lack of density, they always seem to level themselves out in a particular order. Don't know why, just does it. It's a law of nature, and unless anyone can debunk it, I'm going to claim it is one. I'm done.
Well, You actually make a good case. It's the same way how they presumed the law of gravitation, just without an actual causal foundation, really. And
They don't argue.
with relative
They don't
density, we do have, so we could just as well declare it a law of nature. The ballers will love this.
Yeah, they don't argue for why why pressure goes to non-pressure. They don't argue over that. It's not contentious. They don't argue why hot always goes to cold. They don't argue about that. It's not contentious. But they do argue why more dense things displace less dense things. That's an issue because they want that to be called gravity. Well, I can't see any science to prove gravity. I can't see any coherent explanation for what is causing it. But we know that it happens, and we know that when we can predict what will happen based on its density relative to the medium it's in. It's a law of nature, guys. That is literally what it is. That's where I'm at the moment. I don't think you guys can science it any more than we can science it, but it definitely does happen. It is an observed phenomena. Things do sink, things do float, and things get suspended in the middle. That is an observed phenomena. Why it does it?
Right.
Don't really know, but it definitely does it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also, just so you know, too, I've been saying this for the last few months, but the more I look at it, it's the same thing. They have to change the definition of gravity to deal with the celestial bodies. Everything that we see here can be accounted for through some kind of molecular interaction down here, but they have to change the definition so they can account for what goes on in the heavens. They have to change the definition.
Yeah, what they call the heavens is space, and what Einstein describes in his pseudo-Riemannian force space is space-time. The thing that contracts and expands and is made up. It's a conceptual medium. It's not real. And bending it, giving rise to a non-force, is meaningless. Is that it? Are we rounded out gravity? Can we move on? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. But they love to assume it, though. We had the whole conversation about that yesterday as well. And they brought forth the sticks in the ground again. It's like going through all of that all over again.
Sticks and shadows have got sod all to do with the distance to the sun in terms of their presupposition of an R value.
Well,
so
they just are. No, but this is how they actually explained it. They suggested like all this supposed data about the distance of the sun, about what it was and how the earth was a ball, that Aristophanes apparently supposedly knew all this data when it wasn't even officially established yet, when he was doing his experiment. That's how they portrayed the whole situation. When that is obviously ridiculous.
Yeah, they're
how
quite
could he have
overt about
ever
it.
even imagined it to be like that?
Yeah, they're quite overt about it. He assumed R.
Right, and a vast distance and all that it is basically the entire model. That's what they assume. That even in the beginning, with a bunch of goat herders and everything, and a couple of smart guys that know math, that they all had this entire vision, all worked out, the model, everything that the ballers are dealing with now. That's what they just presume.
Yeah, in reality, he presumed Earth was a sphere.
All right. Bypassing that there's just so much information you don't have. You can, of course, if you go by ball presupposition, use the triangulation trick to determine, how it all would work. You know, the triangulation trick, when you don't supposedly have to know an exact distance in order to get the coordinates right and everything. But that still bypasses the fact that in the end, if you want a real confirmation, you gotta have that distance in the sun, and it just skip it. Just skip it. Don't need it. You got triangulation. You don't need it anymore.
They don't skip it. They weasel in the presupposition of Earth-based sphericity in their measurements when they're using sticks and shadows. So, in other words, their application of an R value, like I say, if you look it up, is fairly overt. And it's so overt that it slips by most average Joes. So, do you remember Gary Awesome? Well, Gary Awesome referenced it. He even highlighted the fact that he presupposed the Earth was a sphere when he made the measurement. But he danced over it like, oh, that's alright. That's okay for him to presume the very thing I'm arguing about here, Earth's sphericity. He's just assuming it. Yeah, overtly stating it means that most people will dance over it, is my point, Arwin. That's why I've stepped in. Sorry.
Yeah, but it does happen. They really just start to get comfortable, start up a talk, and then in their explanation, they quickly move through these core, like, of course this, of course that. Just slip it in really quickly, move on to the meat. So you kind of get rushed into taking these things for granted without getting the time to actually ponder upon them. And that's the trick they're doing every time.
Yeah.
So Arwen, are you saying because the goat herders were involved, they pulled the wool over our eyes?
Hey, 10th man's private because of goat herders.
That's a good one.
He's a farmer, right? I bet you haven't even got goats. Are you playing martyr for no good reason? Have you got goats?
No. I've had goats. I've had lambs. I just thought I'd use this for a good pun. The ballers pulling the wool over our eyes using the goat herders.
Boom, boom.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
This is your moment, Discord.
No.
No, don't jinx it. Come on, there's somebody in here. I know somebody's got some evidence of that molten iron core. Oh no, people are dropping. Not encouraging. Oh, you're on server mute, Travis. Let's just take you off mute. Go ahead.
I was saying cricket.
Oh, damn, you got my hopes up.
Nada.
No evidence of molten iron cores at the centre of presupposed spherical Earths. Moving on.
Nah.
Oh, we've asked about it. What about the R value? Anybody at all got any evidence of the R value?
Nope.
No?
Sorry.
Anybody at all? This is the whole nature of debate. This is the crux of the debate. The nature of the world that we live upon is declared to be a sphere. And it's a presupposition, and nobody's got anything to defend that. Seriously. You just happy zealots going, yeah, we just assume it's all good by us. That's our fundy belief, and we're good with it. Seriously?
That's their story, and they're sticking to it.
Amazing.
Nathan, what's your biggest proof against it being a ball? I know everyone asks this, but what's yours? Is it gas pressure or something else?
I like talking about the gas pressure thing. So when the guy came out to do the dents on the car, he was asking me what, like you do small talk, what do you do? And I told him I've got a YouTube channel. What do you discuss? The nature of Earth. Oh, really? And he asked pretty much the same question you did. And I just looked at the sky and went, that's not a vacuum. So I like that as an opener. I think it's a very good argument. I know 10th Man likes Coriolis. I think Coriolis is smeared in so much bullshit that if you ever get into an argument with even a half knowledgeable person on the subject, they can double speak themselves around the topic and you end up talking about it for an hour. Whereas with space being a vacuum, it's really easy to make the example quick. But in terms of, to answer your question, you were like, best evidence against the globe. Well, there isn't any for it. So back to our values. Well, every evidence for a globe starts with the presupposition that you're on a globe. The R value is assumed. There aren't any examples of globe proof that don't start with the presupposition of you being on a sphere. Well, that's not evidence of a globe. That's evidence of fundamentalist religious zealots who assume they're on a globe and then make their examples with the assumption already standing true. It's not true. Well, it's just a presupposition. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let me present my biggest reason, and then I'll ask Arwin for his, because I know he's going to be dying to respond. For me personally, the biggest reason why we're not on a sphere is gravity. Because the minute I found out that, I remember when I first came into the discussion, and people said to me things like, "Which definition of gravity are you on about?" And I didn't realize that they were mutually exclusive. I thought they were inclusive, and you had some element of choice. And then when I started researching Einstein, and I realized that when Einstein said it's not a force, it's the effect of the curvature of space-time, it dawned on me that if it's not a force and it's an effect, it cannot cause anything. So if it can't cause anything, these guys have got three fundamental problems with their model, and they all deny this problem. One, what's causing tides? The moon is supposed to cause tides with its gravitational pull. Well, if gravity is not a force, it can't cause anything. So if the moon's doing something for tides, it's not doing it with gravity because it's not a force, it's an effect. But then you've also got the sticky oceans and you've also got the sticky atmosphere to contend with. Because what holds the oceans on? What holds the atmosphere on from bursting into the vacuum of space? And they say, well, it's not really a vacuum, it's just a low pressure. Well, high pressure always goes to low pressure, always. And you have to have a mechanism to stop it on a ball. And that mechanism is a force. Well, if you haven't got a force, then you're not going to be able to have a density gradient or a pressure gradient because there's nothing stopping it from falling back to Earth. It's all bursting into space, always, and it would do it instantly. And they say pressure gradients. And I'm like, that pressure gradient is subject to something like holding it in. You can't have a pressure gradient without gravity. Gravity is the thing that gives you the pressure gradient. But they ignore that, and they demand that the pressure gradient is the explanation. And I'm like, you can't have a pressure gradient without gravity, you moron. There's nothing stopping that burst from going into space. Balloons don't burst slowly. You need a force, and you haven't got one. So for me, gravity is the one that kills it all. You can't explain tides, you can't explain oceans, you can't explain atmospheres. It's over. Arwin, what do you think? No way.
He's probably going to get a cup of tea.
Hey, can I share?
Just before you do, just one correction, right? Gravity was never holding on the gas pressure. Even if you have gravity, they can have both. They can have Einsteinian and Newtonian, aka Cavendish / Reverend John Mitchell gravity. They can have that at 100% full effect, and it's still not going to hold gas pressure in defiance of entropy. The second law of thermodynamics is not addressed by some fundamentalist force that they don't even have. And even if they do have any force, they can apply it to that and it will not hold it to a spinning ball in a gravity well or any other type of description of gravity. It does not do that.
You're right, but there's something psychological that trips in their mind when Dawn Treader thinks that gravity holds the oceans and the atmosphere on because someone told him it does. Logically and reasonably, it makes sense to him and he accepts it even though it couldn't do it. You are right. But if they've got something that gives them something to believe, but if they haven't even got that, so even if it didn't do it in the first place and it couldn't do it, you haven't got it anyway. So whatever you think's causing the atmosphere to stick to the Earth, and whatever's causing the oceans to stick to the Earth, that's inversely proportionate to its mass and all that nonsense, it's not a force. So it ain't doing anything.
Okay, it's akin to arguing with them because they say that the reason Santa, you're saying the reason Santa couldn't drop the presents under the tree is because he couldn't fit down the chimney. And they're saying, no, Santa has got magical powers and can shrink down the chimney. And you're arguing back and forth about whether or not he can fit down the chimney. When in reality, Santa's not real. Now, in this instance, the force they describe, even if it was real, could not defy entropy.
Yeah, I get that. But when you get down and dirty, Nathan, in the swamp of flat Earth, even though you are right, they still think that if there's a force there, that explains it. Even though they don't get it, that it doesn't. In their mind, it does. So you'll have to reduce yourself to the lowest common denominator.
I do get it. You and I have had this conversation on no less than 20 occasions on air, and there's a reason for that. I just don't want somebody out there to think that that is the main crux of the argument when it is not. Yeah, you cannot overcome entropy. The gas would fill the space even if they had 100% gravity from Cavendish / Reverend John Mitchell and from Einstein in 100% full effect. It still would not defy entropy. It would still fill the space.
And let's just deal with Cavendish. If the reality is that gravity is not a force, where does that put the Cavendish so-called experiment? Because apparently ballers still cling to Cavendish as though it proves something. Well, guess what? If Einstein said it's not, then Cavendish is not proving anything. Sorry, Cavendish has been debunked by Einstein. It's literally that simple. The conversation stops at that point for me.
I agree, but even if they had that presupposition of a force, their claimed experiment being proof with a hypothesis of if mass, then mass attracts mass, and a natural phenomena of balls in shed attracting one another, even if you gave them that and said, okay, you can have that force, it still wouldn't defy entropy.
With that statement, can I share that story I told you about with the Southern California Edison inspector that came to my property?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
So I have these power poles and they have to be inspected. So this guy rings the bell, I let him in, and we start talking. And I could tell he's educated, and he says something that triggers me to start what I'm about to do. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to purposely cause cognitive dissonance in this guy right now. So that's what I said to myself in my mind. And so I said to him, hey, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, you're educated, you know about physics and all that. He says, oh, yeah, I love that subject. I said, great. I said, Coriolis effect. Is there one reference frame for Earth-based Coriolis, or must there be two at least? And he paused. He says, no, there's got to be two reference frames for Coriolis effect, or Earth-based Coriolis effect. And I said, oh, okay. So when the bullet's free flying in the air and the Earth is spinning underneath, would that be a good example of one? He said, of course. I said, all right, what about airplane leaving LAX to Charlotte, North Carolina? It takes 4.5 hours going with the turn of the Earth, but on the return flight, it's going against the turn, and it should take 1.5 hours, but it takes the same 4.5 hours. So what happened to the spin of the Earth? Pause. His eyes went up to the ceiling of his brain, and he just says, I go, what's happening here? Two thoughts at the same time? He was stuck. So he went to, are you ready for this? Well, how do you explain the tides? I go, the tides, what do they got to do with the Earth spinning?
Red herring.
I was going to say, red herring. I was expecting the end of that story to be a ad hoc explanation, but no, just flat out red herring.
Well, it's cognitive dissonance. So they go to their training of the next lie down the road. The moon, the gravity, the pull causes the tide. So all of a sudden, he avoids Coriolis because he just got beat. He's got cognitive dissonance. And then he goes to the tide. So I stay on topic. I said, well, listen, that's another question. And that's a good one. But we're talking about Coriolis and the Earth spinning under free-flying objects. So why does it work under a bullet but not an airplane? Another long pause. And he was so much cognitive dissonance that I had to come in and bail him out. That's how bad it got. Mm-hmm. He goes, okay, now you got me thinking. Now I'm going to have to go check all this out. I said, please do. And under my work order, when the next guy comes, right in there, talk about flat Earth. And he said, I will. It's typical.
I mean, it's not something I've ever discussed with anybody other than Globehead, so maybe my reluctance to use the Coriolis effect is unfounded on account of the fact that it might get lost in 2 hours of obfuscation with a Globehead, but with Johnny Normal, that's a totally different, it's reasonably complicated enough for somebody to have a, what seems like an intelligent conversation about it. You can lead them, as you've done, with how it works with the bullet, and if they think they know, they've watched enough Discovery Channel, they'll go, oh yes, of course, bullet, Earth rotates underneath, excellent. And then you point out that from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA should only take 1.5 hours if the Earth spins underneath and LA's coming towards you as you fly, and suddenly you watch them have a little brain fart.
Yes. And he also went somewhere else. He says, but I've seen the curve of the Earth. And I go, where have you seen the curve of the Earth? He says, I just looked out. And I go, I'm looking out right now. I don't see the Earth spinning, do you? I don't see a curve. I see topography. I go, have you been to the ocean? He goes, yeah. And I go, when I go to the ocean, and I used to have a boat, as far as left, as far as right, as far as straight to the horizon, I could see it was always flat. Can you tell me otherwise? And he totally stopped talking about the curve of the Earth.
Yeah, you got to stop reifying that. You got to stop reifying that horizon, man. That horizon proves nothing either way. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It doesn't curve. Well, what if it did one day? Who cares? It means nothing. The fact that you can see a long distance and there's no obstruction, which is precisely what they argue for in the counter positive, that I would say is a reasonable example of being able to see a long way with nothing, i.e. Earth curve, getting in your way. Like in Ranty's examples, right? But in terms of the way that the horizon doesn't bend, what's the horizon? Well, it's the arbitrary point where you assign a line that's actually the point where the ground meets the sky, but it doesn't. So, yeah, we could go into the complex nature of the diffraction limit, but why bother? It's meaningless in terms of what you're doing. You're saying it doesn't bend. Well, so what? What if it was a giant upside down smiley face? Would that mean we were concave?
Well, let me finish, because as we're talking, more stuff is coming to my memory. So he says, so I said, well, we already know the R value of the Earth according to it's 25,000 miles in circumference. Do you agree with that? He goes, yeah. And I said, well, that broken down is 8 inches per mile square. So as you're looking out, if you're a mile away from me, you should be 8 inches below me if we're on a curved ball. He goes, yeah, I agree. And I said, well, if you're 2 miles out, then you should be 32. And it goes on and on. I go, how come? And, I went to lighthouses and ships. And again, when you put these little things there, his eyes went back to his head. So these are automatic comebacks that they use. And then he says, yeah, but we're a ball. I go, so a ball has measurements. And your side says the measurement is 8 inches per mile per square. So if we use your own math, it doesn't work. There is no curve that you could talk to me about. There is no spin. Look outside. Are we spinning? He goes, no. And I go, then why do you believe people telling you that we're spinning? He says, you know what? You got me thinking. I'm going to go research this.
And now he's a geocentrist.
It was awesome. Instant cognitive dissonance. Just ask those questions. It's awesome.
No, kudos. Like I say, I tend to maybe shy away a little bit from getting into hour-long arguments about Coriolis effect. I did it with my sister-in-law right at the beginning of Flat Earth and ended up discussing the Foucault pendulum with her, and it just descended into a row real quick because it goes on and on and on. And it's like, no, you need something just that little bit more. Oh, I feel I need something much more snappy, which is definitely the gas pressure without a container argument. But obviously with Anthony, it's gravity, so, to each his own.
I ended with the gas pressure without a container. He was already beat up.
And just FYI for the audience's benefit, when I say what I say to Anthony, which is to say, look, their Fundy force of gravity, even if real, wouldn't defy entropy, he knows and I know, we both know what each other knows, and we understand that we're having this conversation mainly for your benefit, you being the audience. Because, yes, I appreciate that Anthony, when in the trenches, as he puts it, is going to be faced with people who just assert that this force can hold gas pressure on. Horse shit. Well, they're not going to listen to that if they've got a fundamentalist religious belief, and that's what he's arguing against. I get it. He's got to get in there and beg the question in order to undo that nonsense. But I'm just still going to stick to the crux of the argument. Go and watch Dr. John Dee and his demonstration. If we have gravity, presupposed or otherwise, it's in full effect at ground level, and you still can't have gas pressure without a container. It's not a possibility. It's a violation of a natural law. It's never going to be demonstrated because it's not demonstratable. And your Fundy belief in a gravity makes sod all difference to how the gas would fill the space. That's how we debunk outer space, a vacuum. It isn't. The gas would fill the space, regardless of your Fundy belief in gravity.
And also, I guess one caveat for the so-called flat earthers are saying there's this other substance or this other thing that contains something. I know 10th Man probably covered the debacle of the altitude and all that stuff. So temperature is not a container. Just to be clear for those flat earthers out there.
Travis Clark, I put you on mute for no mic discipline. All right? Grow up, for crying out loud. And what causes tides? Invisible green pixies causes tides.
How do you know they're green?
Yeah, that's right. According to Rumpy, the Rumpus, right? I can't wait now for these guys to start parroting this. Invisible green pixies and science is an affirming the consequent formological fallacy. That's what they're on right now. I can't wait. Their collective science acumen it looks like Jazzaconda's liver. So please continue with it. I can't wait. Clowns. And Toady Retard in the chat. Why don't you come on in, Mr. Liar Retard? Get your ass handed to you.
Let me have a screen share for a minute, Nathan.
If you could, back off your mic just a tad though.
Sorry.
You're on.
I've heard Rumpus talking about these invisible green pixies, right? And it dawned on me, shout outs to Toady in chat, because it was him that put me onto this. I hadn't heard of this before. This is new information for me. What Rumpus is applying here is Maxwell's demon. And I'm going to take it that no one knows what this is. But Maxwell's demon is...
I brought it up.
I do too. I know.
Yeah, so basically, the invisible green pixies is this little demon that opens the trapdoor for just the high velocity gas particles to go into the other chamber to allow the other chamber to decrease in entropy rather than increase in entropy. And what he's saying is you could violate the second law of thermodynamics hypothetically with a thought experiment. And that's what Rumpus is doing. The invisible green pixies, he's basically creating this pseudo thought experiment nonsense to try and... But the problem with this is that there have been people that argue that when you take into account the energy use of several physicists have presented calculations that show that the second law of thermodynamics will not actually be violated if, and we'll say, invisible green pixies is made, analysis is made of the whole system, including the invisible green pixies. So when you take into account their energy use to be able to control the experiment that Rumpus claims is being affected or might be being affected, then really, he's just literally applying this to try and argue against the idea that you can't have gas pressure without a container. In my view, that's what I think he's doing. The other thing is, I want to shout out P900 Coolpix. She's done a video recently on her channel. It's really hard to find because there's loads of channels with the name P900 and Coolpix for obvious reasons. But anyway, Flat Earth, Thornton Cleveley's to the Isle of Man. And what she shows at 1 minute 50 onwards is a setting sun. Now, Ranty shows that the mirage, the layer that sits above the horizon, that does block what we see and it distorts it. And whatever goes on at that horizon point, Ranty's demonstrated plenty of times that it does block the real horizon. Whatever's going on, we can't really explain it, but we know it's definitely there. It does affect what we're doing.
Sorry, can you make it full screen, please?
Yeah. So what I want to show here is this little section of the setting sun. I've got it slowed right down because she's got it sped up. But what I want you to look at is how the sun presents itself. And imagine where the mirage actually is relative to the sun, because it's difficult to put where the mirage stops. But we can definitely see that there is some kind of mirage going on with the sun. And I'm wondering, is the mirage the reason why the sun's setting? Look at that. That's got a specific name, that type of mirage. Where is the real sun? Now, is the sun... I don't know what's going on there. I'll just play it again so you can watch it. But if the setting sun is setting behind the mirage and the mirage is acting like a brick wall, it's not actually setting, is it? It's just going further away, and the mirage itself is blocking what we're seeing. And the real name for that type of mirage setting is called the Nova Zembla. You could use it by its proper name, but ballers can't even understand gravity, so they're not going to be able to understand a Nova Zembla. So we'll just call it a mirage. But my point is that whatever's going on with sunsets, it ain't going down. It's clearly optical. It's clearly caused by the horizon. And I'm at the point now where I'm wondering, what is the horizon? Is it really an arbitrary point that seems to be where the sky meets the land? Or is it actually a brick wall of mirage or mirroring that's blocking the sun from disappearing the way that they expect it to? But it's just an interesting phenomenon that she recorded, and just shout outs to P900 Coolpix.
And with that, I'll say if you want to see the continuation of this conversation, you'll have to click the link below and subscribe to the Nathan Oakley channel. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. As I say, stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
It's good to be back on the debate, by the way.
Thought you were taking a time out, Howard.
What?
Thought you were taking a time out. I heard you saying on your channel on one of your more recent hangouts, maybe 3 days ago.
Recent? You mean from over 2 weeks ago?
That was Ragewin. This is Arwen.
Oh, was that not
Rage
the real
Win,
Arwen?
did you say? Rage Win.
What?
I think you've got a nickname, Rage Win. That's what I just heard, unless I've just made that up.
Yeah, that's just some trolls that every time I get a little more forward. They call me Ragewin, I guess. Especially when Rumpus is all rumpusy, then I get loud. Because I just try to over Rumpus.
Hey, Nathan, have you seen that Channel Q's deleted a channel?
Oh, yeah,
Who's
that happened.
Channel Q? Who's that?
So, Arwin, you're not a Nathan. Let me just chat to Nathan a sec. Channel Q's the one that was on protest. Do you remember?
Her. Yeah, now you've said her. Yes, I do.
Well,
now I know what you mean. As soon as you said her, I didn't know what you meant, but now I do.
She had a fallout in some way with Slick. I think Slick was arguing in favour of beating women or something like that. You know, he presents himself as some kind of pimp. Who cares what the argument was about? I think what's actually happened is she's took it out on Slick, basically because she's fallen out with the Ballers and they've ostracised her and she's been kicked out of the club. Now, it's really interesting because she's quite happy to, point the finger and sling the dirt anybody's way. But when someone's giving it her back, for whatever reason, and in this instance, it's the Ballers themselves are giving it her back, she doesn't like it. She spits a dummy out and off she goes. And she deletes her channel because of it. But I just think it's irony that when she's happy to fling the dirt, everything's cool. But when she gets it against her, it's everybody else's fault and she has to spit a dummy out of the pram and just like rebel. And I'm just like, you're in the wrong scene or the wrong scenario if you think that you're going to get away with not getting any attacks whatsoever. Welcome to our world. But she's being attacked by her own people, which I think is interesting. Shout out to Channel Q.
Isn't that the right thing to do? You know, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen sort of thing. You know, do the other thing and bugger off if you can't tolerate it. And I would say, good for you, you know. Now you don't have to.
Yeah, I just think that she's happy throwing the dirt my way or whoever's way. I've seen a couple of her videos against me. And I'm like, she knows nothing about me, but she's happy to fling the dirt my way when it suits. But when somebody else on her own side's flinging the dirt her way, she has a tantrum. Shout out to Channel Q.
What do you mean by had a tantrum? If she's deleted a channel, how do you know she's had a tantrum?
Trolls versus Trolls channel did their last hangout on her channel. They mirrored it. And she was tearing a strip off Jose for stuff, drama. She was tearing a strip off the Rumpus and all these Ballers that are being fundamentally dishonest and hiding the truth of the world because it suits their narrative to hide it. Basically being dishonest. All the things that we accused them of. She's basically told them that she can prove that they're all being dishonest. And whatever the argument is, I don't really care, but it's just the politics behind it.
Shocking. Ballers are dishonest. That's a news flash.
Well, maybe her cognitive dissonance just finally broke. Maybe she just really got face to face with what was going on. And
no, I think the final straw was Jose. I think something happened with her and Jose. Jose made a claim that he heard with his own ears that Channel Q had said or done something, and she didn't do it. Whatever that was, I'm not sure what exactly it was. He heard her say something that he claims he heard her say something that she didn't say, and she went mad. They all had a hangout without her being invited to defend herself, where they obviously bitched about her and made her into this massive, nasty person that she may or may not be. But she was angry that she didn't get the invite to defend herself, and obviously blamed Jose and blamed Rumpus. Rumpus was directly involved in it in some way, but basically she's calling them all out for being dishonest fuckers, for lying about the narrative, because she knows that they're hiding stuff that they should be releasing, and she's calling them all out, calling them all liars.
What does she know? Hold on, this is a lot of assertions. What are they hiding that she knows they're hiding about the narrative?
She didn't identify it, but she said a threat was that I know everything that you guys are hiding and you are despicable, or words to that effect. You should check it out on the Trolls versus Troll channel. It's good.
I see.
It's pure, unrestricted, unadulterated Channel Q at her best, but she's not picking on like me this time. She's picking on Ballers. All of them, Jose, Rumpus, I can't remember the other names that she named, but it was the usual group of idiots.
Her last argument with me was her screaming that the air pressure can be held on by a force. So here's me on the live show going, look, Anthony, it doesn't make any difference, which is absolutely true. You know, gravity's not going to be holding no gas pressure onto the side of a ball. Nevertheless, I totally appreciate that that's what they argue as fundy idiots, because they don't understand their own rhetoric. So She's a perfect example of that. That was her argument with me on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it was, or Hitchhiker's Guide to Earth. I think his channel's called. I forget. Either way, that was an argument I had with her. But I just roll my eyes. I just think, you're just dumb.
I had it on in the background whilst I was making some bespoke furniture, and basically I just had it on loud and I was listening to it. And often, you don't have to listen to the words; you can just listen to the tone that's in her voice, and it was pure venom. It's really good. It's proper emotion. So she's worthy of a shout out just for being honest, because she was just venting off her frustrations and her anger. But if you listen to what the content of her actual arguments against these ballers, it's exactly the point that we've been saying for years, that these guys are fundamentally lying.
Yeah, like John said, not exactly a shocker. We know they're outright liars. They will change and dance around their own narrative, and they've got to know how to do it well enough to obfuscate the real point. And I used to attribute motivation to this less and less now, since Quantum Eraser's very sound advice to define their motivation is the acme of foolishness. And I completely agree, because saying, oh, well, they must realise that they're using one narrative and then another. Well, I can't divine whether or not that's just cognitive dissonance or, what's the word, motivated intent to deceive. I can't think of a concise word for that, but yeah, that.
It's Hamlin's razor.
Hamlin's razor, that hasn't come up for a while.
What's Hamlin's razor? Remind me. I've heard it, but I can't remember it.
Don't attribute to malice what can be explained by pure ignorance.
Well, that's her all over. I mean, she's been quite rude to me, polite to my face, but rude behind my back. But she's one of those people that's interesting to listen to because she's got such anger and aggression in her voice. Feisty little fucker she is.
It's just poison running through her veins, though.
It is.
But it wouldn't...
Entertaining, though.
I mean, that might be the case, but don't you feel an element of pity for her?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Pity her. That's why. I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, you can't help those sorts. Well, I can't help those sorts of emotions creeping in. I pity her. I wouldn't want to be someone who, don't get me wrong, I can get riled up as good as anybody else, but by the same token, she strikes me as having permanent poison coursing through her veins. Well, I'd hate that feeling. I've got a lot of joy in my life, and she strikes me as someone that probably doesn't. And I wouldn't want that. I've got a bit of empathy for her, so I pity her.
I'm empathetic, but I don't pity her. She lives her own life. She's an adult. She makes her own choices. I don't pity her at all. She makes her own choices. She's responsible for her own choices. She is what she is, right?
Depends how empathetic you are, I suppose.
No, I empathise, but I don't pity her. I think that for me, there's a difference between the two. Like, you'll be. What's the difference between empathy?
Well, for me, it's slightly contagious. When I hear that, I kind of feel her pain to a certain limited extent, and I don't like that. So that creeps in also. Like, some people get it when they see somebody hurt themselves; they suddenly feel pain. I kind of get a bit like that. I can't watch things like skateboarding videos because as soon as they fall off when they're doing a whatever they call it, down a half pipe or down a handrail, whatever they do, and fall off, I feel the pain and go, ow, that's not pleasant, and I turn it off. Well, the same applies when people are, exhibiting that kind of pain, but verbally, and she does very well. You can detect, or at least I think I can. I mean, I'm just making this up, divining nonsense and trying to describe my feelings about how she speaks, but it sounds like she's in pain, mental pain.
Yep, it's palpable.
Yeah, good word, palpable.
Come off mute and share your pain.
Before you do, though, can you just back me up? I know this isn't directed at Anthony, although he's the useful leverage for it. The idea that a force, presupposed or otherwise, can hold on a gas. That Anthony's deep sigh.
I was waiting for the second part of the question. I must have missed the first part. What was the first part?
Well, no, I'm just addressing the idea which we fight about on the live shows, which is to say you don't need to address gravity in order to have the how can you have gas pressure without a container argument. The two aren't, that there's no interplay between the two. Yes, it's asserted. I get that. I get it.
Yeah, but of course, like the reality is that whilst your point is true, when I say to a baller, how do you have the gas pressure without the container in the first place? They say gravity. Now, even though it's wrong, if that's their genuine, honest belief, even though it's wrong, you can't just dismiss it flippantly because that you know that they're wrong. You've got to try and appease their own ignorance and tease it out of them. And they just don't like letting it come out of them. Like, honestly, if you listen to Jose's channel or just go into the chat.
Hold on. Let me address that. Yeah, I can. So, yeah, I can. I can just laugh at them. I know you're saying, no, you can't just hand wave dismiss the fact that they're completely wrong. Yeah, I can.
It's not enough for them, though, when they feel as though they're justified to have the belief that they've got.
Oh, poor glowheads.
But that's not really relevant.
Also.
Poor baby.
But if you want to have a conversation that's not just straight out, you're an idiot, and rumpusing, then you might want to, for a time, entertain some of their idiocy in order to just point at more detailed...
Excellent.
errors.
You've just let Anthony off the hook. Yeah, why the hell would I do that, Arwin?
Why would you do what? Let me off the hook?
No.
Well,
you're off the hook, Anthony. Hold on.
To,
Let me just repeat the question to
I
Arwin.
would, because I like to join other hangouts and then still have a discussion and just outright say no, then there's just going to be a lot of no's. And
I'm not saying that. Say no. I'm saying explain why. It's like when somebody comes in and says Cavendish experiment. And before you let them get their next breath out, you point out that it's not an experiment. Immediately, they've undone their own argument by using that word. Now, it could be asserted.
But they just demand to get away with it anyways. So can I just explain?
Right.
Let me just presuppose that it was. They just do that every time.
Okay.
And if you say no, then everybody's all angry and...
I'm not saying say no. I've just said, I'm
shouting
not
match.
saying
But that's
say
what
no.
happens there.
And that's not what I'm saying. Even if you say yes, go ahead and explain. But if you haven't cut the argument down at the beginning, how are you going to then point out at the end when they've given their just so story for their experiment and they haven't conceded what an experiment is because you haven't said that's not an experiment? They've just merrily gone along with the idea that it is, explained it in great detail, and then at the end you say it's not an experiment. Well, I've just explained how it is an experiment, and then you start explaining to them how it's an experiment.
Yes,
well,
and that's what happened exactly yesterday, pretty much, wasn't it?
Okay, I'm a bit more blunt. I just
We
think when
talked
somebody
about it for
asserts
an
something
hour.
incorrectly,
What
they
is
should
an
just be
experiment?
addressed. If somebody says the word experiment when it's not, I'm just going to address that immediately.
Right. Well, it took a little longer with us.
Did anyone figure out what "and" means yet?
I'm pretty sure it's...
Arwen, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Arwen,
Yes, I can.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Chocolate, we can hear.
Arwen, check
Can
your
you hear
Skype
me?
real quick, brother.
He said, "Check your Skype, Arwen."
Oh,
Yeah, John, you know that observations and experiments point from Rumpus. Did you hear that in Jose's chat?
No. What did he say? What is he saying now?
Well,
he's
basically,
having trouble getting in.
what I'll do, John, I had the definition of science on screen, and I had the definition of pseudoscience on screen. And obviously, we know that the pseudoscience definition states that if it doesn't comply with scientific method, or if it's not based on scientific method, then it's pseudoscience. That bit he claims that he's okay with, but then basically doesn't comply with scientific method. But the definition for science said that it was the systematic and practical blah 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 blah. And then the final bit was based on observation and experiment. And I was pointing out to him that he needs to have the experiment part. He can't just have the observation part. And he wouldn't accept it because he says, if I go to the safari park and I saw zebras and lions, just because I didn't see lions doesn't mean my statement of zebras and lions is wrong. And I'm like, well, if you went to the safari park and you say you saw zebras and lions, it means that you saw zebras and lions. To say that you saw zebras and lions, but you only saw zebras, means that you did not see lions, and your sentence would be false. He will not accept that it needs to have experiment. Basically, when you do your first hangout, let's just go through his arguments on Jose's channel and just rip the guy apart, because the guy's an absolute dishonest piece of shit.
So just to define it, just before you get it. So, and used to connect words of the same part of speech, clauses, or sentences that are to be taken jointly. Example, bread and butter. Synonymous. Together with, along with, as well as, in addition to, including, also.
Yeah, so would you be able to say, I saw zebras and lions when I went to the safari park, if you didn't see lions?
The scary part is you're going along with somebody that should be institutionalized.
Yeah, but I realize
that
I'm influencing the audience. I'm not influencing Rumpus. He's never going to be influenced. It's the audience that can basically see that Rumpus is arguing the opposite meaning of the word and he's applying the word or instead, and we can all see that. But I just find it astonishing that a man of his intellect, his claimed intellect, doesn't understand what the word and means.
Claimed.
What things he can explain gravity?
Anthony's legal background getting the better of him there with that little weasel word. Dropped in the word claimed.
Jeez.
Now, but what Rumpus was
basically,
what Rumpus was trying to infer with his argument, and it was wrong, was that in some cases, if you, for example, had a comma before the and, then you could argue for a separation. But everywhere it's written, everywhere you try to find the scientific method and its description, there's never a comma before the end. It's always together. You can't even find those separate words in a separate argument without the other.
I'm not sure he did make that point. You made that point.
No, but that was what he was clumsily trying to do and just derailing everything.
Perhaps, but nonetheless, the point still remains that the word and means the former and the latter are connected, the joint, right? You can't distinguish between them with the use of the word and. He's an idiot.
Well, not in the context that we've come across it concerning the argument.
Context of and. I've just read it out.
I know you did.
And there's no comma before the and.
Say again, Owen?
And there's no comma before the and. So there's no mistaken about it in how to interpret it.
Oh yeah, we all understand that you need experiments. It's just Rumpus knows that that's where he's what's the word? Screwed.
Those invisible green pixies. Yeah, ballers, you need to get on that train. Okay? Can't wait. Clowns. And back to this Maxwell's demon. You never heard that before? I brought that up at least 5 times before.
It's definitely been on a
You need to get out of that chat.
Yeah, do you want to go through it now? I mean, might even snip it out, but yeah, it's definitely, we covered it on Ballbusters when we were covering this very subject.
Yeah, I don't know what their claim was with Maxwell's demon. As soon as they invoke any intelligence into a natural law, the whole thing's void. Even if it's a conjured intelligence. So,
well, it's very much a conjured intelligence because it's a thought experiment that's applicable. Well, it's not even applicable. It doesn't undo the second law of thermodynamics. It doesn't defy entropy. It's a thought experiment.
Remember, I told you the only 2 ways that you can thwart entropy temporarily is energy, not only the right type, but the right amount, and intelligence. The only way. Thanks.
We all meditating on that note, are we? Won't be long. We'll all be running up mountains in our box shorts.
Let's discuss the definition of the.
God.
Depends what your definition of is.
So, on my little trip over the past 4 days, I found that hangout that Anon says that he wasn't in.
In the chat.
Where's Anon been? Where you been, Anon? Why don't you come back? I got an Einstein surprise for you. Just waiting.
Oh, don't we get any more? Is it a secret?
Nah. Secret.
Okay. I look forward to it. I'll be here with bated breath.
I posted it in a number of Skype chats.
Yeah, people don't read that. I read it. People don't. Yeah, it's amazing how much information just whistles on by people.
Ain't that so, Anthony?
I hear you.
I hear you.
You.
Anthony's on mute.
All that information all has a time and a place.
I don't know.
When you're ready, you're ready.
So, Chocolate, you can't get into the hangout, did you say?
No, for some reason it won't let me in. Not sure why. I didn't change any settings. For some reason, it's just
Did it
not
say
letting
you were
me rock
blocked?
today.
Did it say you were blocked by somebody? Maybe somebody in the hangout's got you blocked.
What?
No,
Is that
no.
you?
I
Arwen's
don't,
got you blocked.
no, I don't think
It's Arwen.
that.
It's Arwen.
It's Arwen.
It's Arwen.
Damn you, Arwen.
Pretty sure it's not Arwen.
Yeah, it's definitely Arwen.
Okay. It's Rage Win.
I don't know why. We'll hopefully tomorrow it won't be an issue. If it's still an issue tomorrow, we'll have to figure it out from there.
No problem.
They've turned off the live section. You can't go live with Google Hangouts on air anymore. It's just Google Hangouts now. So they've discontinued that functionality of the Hangout software. Whether or not that's got any bearing on you not entering, I don't know.
Wait, you turned off the what did you turn off?
What? Chocolate,
Live?
you are in the panel. You are there. You should just...
I'm in what panel? I'm in Discord right now.
Yeah, but you're also in the back panel.
I am?
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
Okay. Well, as I say, it sounds like something at your end, Chocolate.
Wait, no, that can't be right. Because it also says Spurskimo was here. That's probably
Yeah,
not
Spurskimo
true.
was here. Spurs
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he joined before the show started.
Okay. Oh, apparently Chocolate Sane did too.
Well, there we go there then.
Is
Glad we
Chocolate
reconciled
saying blocking Chocolate saying?
Could be. Could be.
I'm sure glad we reconciled all that.
Yeah.
I was worried.
Wait, so I'm in the back panel of the call that you're in now?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Like, it didn't let me in. How the hell did I get in? That doesn't make any sense. Can you add me from there?
No, you're already in there. I could snipe you out though.
Don't snipe him out because that could cause
No,
even
I'm
more
not,
bloody
but-
problems.
I could.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Continue with the show. It's not that
There'll be
serious.
another new link tomorrow, so who cares? Well, it's good to be back. A couple of days off down at the beach. Bitten by about 1 million insects. Covered in bites.
Goody. But you were on a holiday or a vacation with the family, or?
But I just went to see my sister and mother and father, who live down on the south coast. So obviously we went to the beach. They live up on the beach. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just had a weekend
Took
away.
a long break.
Weekend. Oh, isn't this a riveting conversation? Everybody in Discord, there's about 20 people in there.
Yeah, they all piled in right after the show was over.
Hey, Nathan, can you hear the people on Discord?
Yeah. Are you in Discord, whoever asked that?
There's somebody trying to talk to Anthony or something. I don't know if you guys can hear him.
Yeah, the line's open. Everything should be working.
Chocolate was just talking in Discord.
Yeah. And you're all in the after show, so everyone's not on server mute.
Travis, join and rejoin.
Just hear someone squeaky mouse quiet.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. Finally, I can be heard. Great. How's my mic coming through? Am I okay?
Yeah, so not bad.
You're good, man. I heard
right.
you before. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I wasn't able to be heard by anybody else though. Thank you, Chocolate. So yeah, I had a question for Anthony. He started out saying, something along the lines of Newtonian gravity being destroyed, and then they're coming after Einsteinian.
Uh-huh. I can address that for you if you like.
Just see if we can get him off mute. You there, Anthony? Anthony?
Nah, he's way
warrior.
too busy these days.
Yeah, it was a news article, but yeah, feel free, Arwin.
I had an idea of a name for the math for their new theory of gravity whenever that comes out. It could be called pseudoscientific fifth space.
It's already got a name. The pseudo-Ramonian 4 space. So it's already got that name.
Yes, Anthony had disclaimed that the article said they're coming after Einsteinian next. So after that gets dismantled by the ballers or the narrative or whatever.
Would you like me to drop the article for you in Discord?
That'd be outstanding. Thank you.
But just refer to the geometry. That's what I'm saying. It's already been labelled pseudo by Einstein himself. So there's no necessity to make up a name for it when it's already got that as part of the name of the geometry.
Yeah, and to be fair though, I don't know how one pseudoscience can actually disprove another pseudoscience.
Hold on, I think this chap's saying post-Einstein. What do you mean?
Yeah, it sounded like Anthony was saying that the article was saying that that they're going to be coming after Einsteinian next.
They're 12 years too late.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm just saying because, they love gravity so much they'll invent some new bullshit for it. And so it's going to be instead of fourth space, fifth space, and it's going to be pseudoscientific fifth space.
What they were saying is that Einstein's relativity doesn't explain certain things. So they're starting to try to do away with that theory.
It's not a theory. It doesn't explain anything. It's not a theory, and it doesn't explain anything to begin with. So
I was just playing off of the joke.
That's what they said.
Right.
That's all. It was just a joke. Apparently nobody caught it, so it's all good.
I got you with the 5D. I got you somewhere. Hold on, let me post that article. Give me a second.
Yeah, we're all a bit dry clearly today. My bad.
How is the weather there, by the way?
How's the weather? Has there been no scientific evidence of gravity or proof of Earth rotation while I've been gone over the weekend?
Yeah,
the winds
invisible
seem to be
green
blowing
pixies.
in one direction, so maybe. Nah.
But yeah, I don't know the full context of that. I mean, I understand that from what I get, Rumpus has spun off what you say about invisible three-toed gnomes, assigned a colour green to something invisible, and then used it as proof of what now?
Well, proof of
The proof
science
that science
prove
doesn't
things.
prove anything, right?
Science doesn't prove things. See, they need science not to prove things. What they're actually saying is pseudoscience doesn't prove things. Yeah, we already know that. So they can grease the skids for the new Just So story. But actual science proves things. That's why we do it, crayon munchers.
Indeed. And I defended that concept on Jose's, by the way. Totally agree. And the funny thing is that if they say, look, because there could be something out there that disproves this experiment, they're not actually disproving the experiment. They're probably going to be disproving the theory on that it rests on top of the experiment. But the experiment itself is a physical interaction if it's a proper experiment, and that will simply always work or it will not, and then it's disproven. So no matter how the approach of science and the ideas and the models are, those experiments will be self-standing. Right, John?
They just invoke an argument from ignorance fallacy. Some of the idiots think that it's some type of Karl Popper science or some nonsense like that. Idiots. Argument from ignorance, baltards. That's the title of your autobiographies. Clowns.
But do you agree with my point?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
I think
Hold on,
it's
just
sort of like they're
just before you
setting
do,
up their own straw man.
just before you do, can you repeat your point,
Yeah,
Arwin?
it's like they're setting up their own straw man.
What's the straw
They're
man?
knocking it down. So they're saying Newton, that's their straw man, then they knock it down. Then Einstein, then that's another straw man, then they knock it down. But never really getting to the underlying crux of the matter.
Which would be what?
Yeah, so you see, in this case, if people keep coming at them with, show us the R value, show us the cause of gravity, but they're not really going to do that. So they're just going to be inventing new things, but then they're going to claim this disproven thing of they've been doing science because they've been knocking down their own straw men. So they say, okay, Newton, then they destroy that with Einstein. Then they have whatever next comes after Einstein, and then they, throw Einstein under the bus with that. So they can sort of claim, look, we're doing science, we're progressing and all that, all the while, trying to maintain their gravity spinning ball thing and giving us the illusion that they're progressing.
Einstein's.
Right, like they're routinely reinterpreting the scriptures.
Well, no, it's been summed up much better by Quantum Eraser.
Isn't it? Like the G, it's there. So how is it there? And then the scientists of the age write their opinions and stories, come to a conclusion. Okay, now it's this. And then the next generation or a few generations after figures out like, oh, wait, no, it's all wrong because gravity is there because of this. And so it keeps on migrating per generation.
Yeah, but
while never actually getting to the point.
What you're describing, I just want to summarize it again. QE's already done it once, but it's important because what they're describing is not science. Yes, they say the word science, but they say the word science for a very specific reason. It's a magical word in their vocabulary that means proving things. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of their description of what it's actually doing in debate, they'll say it doesn't prove things. Well, the reality is that they are describing pseudoscience, and what this gentleman on Discord has just summed up is akin to what John started out in summary with. We're not talking about science, established cause and effect, proven through systematic experimentation. That's not what they are talking about. They're talking about what Arwen just described, a just so story that's given, that can be undone at a later stage by a different just so story. What QE described as greasing the skids for their just so stories, as opposed to validating hypothesis with systematic experimentation. That's science. They're not doing it. So them saying, oh, science doesn't prove things. No, pseudoscience, which is what you are applying, fundy globeheads, that doesn't prove a damn thing. It never did. So undoing a pseudoscience claim with a new pseudoscience just so story, i.e. Einsteinian just so stories, replacing the physics that is claimed to be in effect when applying some pseudoscience experimentation formed by Reverend John Mitchell and Cavendish. So they're just undoing pseudoscience with pseudoscience. The fact that they call it science is all part of the magic trick.
Right, and they can just keep kicking the can down the road with just, pseudoscience after pseudoscience after pseudoscience, and people have the illusion that they're actually doing science when it's not. It's just, greasing the skids, kicking the can down the road, just, replacing more pseudoscience with more pseudoscience.
It's more like a generational intellectual arts project. that keeps on reinventing itself based on the mindset of the time.
And with that, I'll say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Google Plus and Discord panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!